Hey, what up, folks? It's your boy BQ with the Impact Lounge, number one place to be for the Impact Wrestling fan. I had a little time this morning to do a reaction video, which I haven't done in a little bit. I was getting ready to potentially sit down and review the episode, but I got a little time to talk about this because I've been critical of the Impact Insider. I've been critical of Impact Plus and Impact Insider, Impact Wrestling. You know what I mean? That's how Negative BQ does it. So I did want to talk about this a little bit, give you guys some extra content to sink your teeth into. Um, what this is in regards to, if you guys aren't already aware, if you're not part of the Impact Insider, is that they added Taylor Wilde's podcast to the package, the Wild On podcast. I'm a pretty consistent listener of her podcast. I miss a few episodes here or there, but I'm a pretty consistent listener of them, and I think she's a great podcaster. I think she does a good job. I think she's a very natural interviewer, and you can tell she doesn't come in there with a script and a list of questions. Like it's very natural and free flowing. So for the most part, I really enjoy what she does. And I was talking about her podcast on one of my Impact reviews a couple of weeks ago. By the way, I hope you like the new thumbnail image for this upload. That is an idea of what the new thumbnails are going to be looking like going forward. I'm working on a background for the streams here, but I really wanted to update the thumbs. I'm very proud with how they look. But anyway, she does a great job. And I talked about this a couple weeks ago on one of the Impact reviews where I was talking about her interview with Zicky Dice and that I didn't particularly enjoy it. But one thing I actually meant to say that I forgot was that, Impact could benefit from her being almost an official podcaster for them. And I think they ended up announcing Wild On a day or two after I, recorded the podcast. So I would have come off like such a prophet, but that's neither here nor there. But she's a very natural speaker, and this is something I've been touching on here or there, is that it is an element Impact missing. What do I mean by that? Is that even though I come from a more old school where I don't want the curtain peeled back too much, we are in an era where people want that curtain to be peeled back. And they've messed around with some podcasts here or there. There's that Between the Ropes or whatever one that Tom Hannafin does, which isn't too bad. But they haven't had that like Stone Cold podcast where he's sitting down and they're really getting into the weeds about someone's frame of mind and their career. When they do a lot of interviews, they come off very, very scripted. There's the music in the background, there's a real natural element missing. And that's kind of what helps a wrestling fan or the audience connect with the wrestler a little bit. We're just in that era. And what to recap what I said on the Impact review about the Zicky Dice interview was that, like, I'm not particularly a huge fan of his. I don't dislike him, but I'm not a particularly huge fan. I was introduced to him on NWA, and I thought he was okay. But I listened to the podcast thinking, I would love to know a little bit about Zicky Dice's journey and his independent promotion, coming to Impact, all that. Now, here's the good thing about Taylor's interviews is that they're not wiki interviews. I hate wiki interviews. When I was consistently doing interviews, I tried my hardest. My first ever podcast with Robbie E was like really wiki. And then after that, I was like, you know what? I don't want to go that direction that every other podcast is going. Where they got their start, who trained them, how they started watching wrestling. Oh, I was watching with my grandfather. Like, she doesn't do any of that, which is really, really cool. You like a free flowing conversation, but like the Zicky Dice interview was a complete waste of my time, of like bullshitting about nothing that the wrestling audience cared about. Like, you don't have to do a wiki interview, but you can still let us know, like, hey, this is how I got here. This is some of the challenges I face, the adversity, and what I'm trying to do with my career. You want to know something. There's got to be some meat on the bone there. Um, but I didn't particularly enjoy that interview. But they're bringing it to Impact Insider, which I think is a really good idea. I've been super critical about the Impact Insider because they don't promote it. There's been no promotion outside of the initial press release. They have not one time on an episode of Impact said, "This is what the Impact Insider is. This is how much it costs. This is the value that you receive when you get it." When you buy a box at the store of Rice Krispie treats, and there's a value, the value box, one usually has 10. Okay, we're putting 15 in this one. You don't just Rice Krispie or Kellogg doesn't just put the box on the shelf without telling you on the box, hey, there's 33% more treat in here. Same with like toilet paper, whatever it is, Like you have to communicate the value to someone when you're selling something. And the Impact Insider has always been like, hey, it exists, it's a thing, but like who truly knows what it is outside of us people who followed the company hardcore from the very beginning? If you think about Honor Club and New Japan World, and I mean, I understand what those platforms are, but they never communicated Impact Plus, Impact Insider. This is what you get. This is what it is. I guess with Impact Plus to an extent because they're so library focused with that app, so we kind of knew what we were getting. But we expected with this Impact Insider because they just haven't. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. They've done a very poor job with it. The idea is great. I think they got ahead of the curve with the idea. It was the execution and how to build on it. So, initially we thought, okay, we're going to get some original content here. And they've done a little, like there's like 3 episodes of Callahan Uncensored. And, there's the Wilde on and there's the Between the Ropes. There's like 2 episodes. I mean, they have given some stuff, but there's nothing to like really sink your teeth into. And I guess the only negative thing I'll say about actually adding to this this to the app was that there wasn't a plan for it. There wasn't, just kind of like with wrestling where there's a build to something. This came across more like, yo, we need content. What do you do? Okay, we're just gonna upload you to our channel. There wasn't they did not build any kind of anticipation to it. So where they shit the bed with this is that the first episode, I'm pretty sure it's the first episode. I don't believe there was another one on there. Was with Session Moth Martina. No connection to Impact Wrestling. And I know that her podcast is not strictly knockouts. Every once in a while there's a dude on there. But it's more likely than not women. And so I understand that. But if you're really trying to make a real impact and create something that people are like, yo, I want to check this out, whether you're not a subscriber already or you're currently a subscriber, to build some sort of anticipation, you would think that there would, the first episode would be Jordan Grace. It would be Deonna Purrazzo. It would be Mickey James. You feel me? One of the top knockouts in the company. But instead we get someone who's cool. Don't get me wrong. But no connection to the company. And in the past, I think she's mentioned she would like to wrestle for Impact. But she's not really that known to the Impact audience. And that's the first or maybe second. Like I said, I got to scroll down. Maybe I missed one. But I believe it was the first podcast that you give us. And I think that's a huge miss. The second miss is that, as I said with the Zicky Dice interview, this was the same thing. It was bullshitting, and then it was tarot card stuff, astrological sign, whatever the hell they call that stuff. My girl's real into that stuff, so she'd probably get a kick out of it. But that's where the Zicky Dice interview went as well. And you're going this whole podcast learning nothing about somebody. And again, she doesn't do the wiki interviews, and that's great. And I think she's a great podcaster. That isn't what I'm saying. I enjoy her show. But we're talking about this particular episode and trying to give the Impact Insiders something to get excited about and to want to subscribe or want to remain a subscriber. Like I'm close to unsubscribing because I have a let's see, I have YouTube TV, which doesn't have access, but we got another streaming one for a different channel. We got strictly because we were trying to get a different channel. I can't remember what the hell it's called, but that one has access. So at this point, I'm just giving Impact my money to do it when I can really just stream it on this other platform. But I'm trying to give them the opportunity to give me a reason to stay subscribed. And this isn't really it, you know. You have to change the direction of it a little bit. Okay, you're coming to our channel. We're gonna have to start factoring in some of the Impact talent and the knockouts, and make sure we do this the right way. Start it off on the right foot. With someone like Zicky Dice, even though I don't care where he started training, I would have liked to know what brought him. I mean, I do know to an extent because of the dirt sheets, but I left NWA for this reason, and I wanted to go here. Then I came here, and this is why I came here. That's not a wiki interview, but it's getting to know somebody, and that's what I think has to happen going forward. But I really think if you kick it off with like, hey, we're just gonna do it big right away. Here's Mickey James. I've used the example of the first ever Rampage episode, first ever match, Impact World Championship, Christian Cage against Kenny Omega. The first match wasn't, you know, the Wingmen versus. I'm trying to think. They have so many random wrestlers, and I'm trying to think of random names at the moment. They didn't give you just some bullshit to start off the show. You have to start it off big, and that was a little bit of a miss. So good thing that they've added it to the channel. It is a weekly thing. It's not gonna be like Callahan Uncensored. We get once every blue moon. Like it's weekly, so it's gonna be weekly content, but it's come across more like, hey, we need content. Please give us something, rather than having an actual plan for the growth and the insider. But I would like to see it tailored a little bit towards we got to get some Impact people on here. And is it that much different than Callahan Uncensored? Because they're obviously Impact guys. No, not really. All that's changing is the interviewer, but they have a chance here because she does have a popular podcast. She is good at what she does. So they got to take better advantage of that and then continue to come up with ideas for people to become insiders or to remain insiders. That's where the plan is missing, and communicating to the audience. This is what it is. This is how you subscribe. This is what it costs. This is the value. And TW and I used to talk about this with the WWE network. Like they weren't just like, hey, there's the WWE network. And then, hey, every once in a while they'd be like, hey, on the WM network, this, and this. No, like they were constantly telling you $9.99 to where it became a marketing scheme for the app. And they were constantly letting you know, hey, this is actually, they weren't very good with that in the beginning, letting you know the actual value. That was one of the misses, but eventually they did a pretty good job with that. And I brought up the Stone Cold podcast. I've talked about this a couple times, but years ago, I watched the Royal Rumble, and right after they're promoting, Stone Cold interviewing Sasha Banks, gave you a reason to stay on their network and to keep the momentum going through the wee hours of the night until you went to bed. And again, we got to know so much about her and the way her mind thinks, because Stone Cold's not a wiki interviewer. Like the AEW podcast, even though I like it, it's a wiki interview. It's a Wikipedia. Tell us how you got started in wrestling. Bullshit questions, most of it, and then there's some natural element to it. But I would like to see that after Bound for Glory, after Slammiversary, like get on the Impact Insider. You can promote it throughout the pay-per-view, throughout the week, on the episodes, social media, and then right after the pay-per-view, there's and I would do a more professional setting than Zoom or StreamYard, kind of like what Stone Cold did, what Jericho used to do on their network. After the pay-per-view, we're giving you this, or even if it's talking to someone who was in the main event or something, you know what I mean? But there just has to be more of a plan. But that's all I got for you guys. I wanted to give you guys a little bit extra content to check out. And I have to finish up watching Impact. I think I got to watch the main event. Spoiler alert, I hated this episode. After liking last week's quite a bit, did not like this episode. So if you don't like the negative shit, don't even listen to the next podcast because I'm going to destroy that episode. I'm just letting you know right now. But I am your boy BQ. Thanks for checking me out. If you haven't subscribed yet here to the lounge, please do so. I'm out. Peace.